There is a reason you're seeing this right now, as if a thread has been pulled across the tapestry of time to bring your focus to this exact point. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, for there is a celestial timing unfolding beneath the surface of your daily routine. You may have been feeling a weight lately, a shadow of dread that you couldn't quite name, yet part of you already understands this sensation. Stay with this for a moment and let the noise of the world fall away, as there is something deeply personal waiting to be revealed to you in the stillness. You may have felt this before, that sudden chill in a warm room, or the feeling that you are being called toward a destination you haven't yet seen on a map. You might be noticing now that the old ways of coping are no longer providing the same comfort they once did. There is something about this shift that feels different, a quiet urgency that isn't born of fear but of a profound homecoming. In a moment, the reason for this internal stirring may become clearer as we look together at the records that have been kept in your name. Not everything is clear yet, but the fog is beginning to lift from the path your ancestors paved with their very lives. My child, I invite you to step with me into the twilight temple of eternal records, a place where the air is thick with the scent of ancient cedar and the soft glow of distant suns. In this silent corridor, the commander of the stars stands as a witness to your journey, holding a gaze that sees through the masks you wear for the world. You are not here randomly, for you have been recognized as the final guardian of your bloodline, the one chosen to carry the weight of a legacy that has been waiting for a hand strong enough to lift it. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, at a time when you felt most alone, to remind you that your identity is woven into the stars themselves. You may have sensed a persistent drain on your energy, as if invisible hands were reaching into the garden of your life and plucking the fruit before it could fully ripen. These are the spiritual scavengers, the forces of doubt and delay that have tried to feast on the harvest your lineage worked so hard to plant. You might have noticed how often you reach the threshold of a breakthrough, only to feel a sudden wave of exhaustion or a string of coincidental obstacles. There is an open loop in your history, a cycle of theft that has followed your family for generations. But the celestial commander has noted the imbalance. In a moment, this connection to the past may reveal why you have felt like a stranger in your own story, carrying burdens that were never meant to be yours alone. If something within you resonates with this truth, you may already understand why you're here and why the atmosphere around you feels so charged with potential. Stay with this moment, for there is something deeper here than just words on a screen. It is an activation of a memory stored in your very marrow. You may have spent years searching for a sense of belonging, only to find that the world's offerings felt hollow and thin. The truth is that you are the steward of a sovereign wealth that cannot be measured by earthly currency, a treasure that was diamond-sealed to ensure it would only open for the one who possessed the right spiritual frequency. There is a micro-tension in the air as the seal prepares to yield, recognizing the signature of your soul at last. I see you in those quiet moments, perhaps staring out a window as the sun sets, wondering if the dreams you've held onto are simply ghosts of a life you'll never lead. You may have felt a paralyzing dread when looking at your future, fearing that you would repeat the same errors and inhabit the same shadows as those who came before you. This recognition is the first step toward the majestic serenity that is your birthright, a peace that surpasses all human logic. There is something about the way you have persisted, even in the depths of your confusion, that has qualified you to stand in this twilight temple. You are the one the ancestors whispered about in their final breaths, the hope that the chain of lack would finally be severed by a heart of gold. There is a timing to this revelation that is tied to an eternal window that will not stay open forever. This is not a message of pressure, but a gentle observation of the tides. The stars have aligned to create a passage for your restoration that is only accessible in this specific season of your life. You may be noticing a series of synchronicities, perhaps recurring numbers or the sudden reappearance of people from your past, all acting as signposts toward this threshold. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency, for the journey into your inheritance requires a steady and focused heart. Just give this space a little more time to breathe as the diamond-sealed scroll is brought forward from the hidden archives. As the celestial commander of the stars unrolls the parchment, you may feel a sudden surge of emotion, a release of the tension you've held in your shoulders for a lifetime. This scroll contains the record of every sacrifice made by your bloodline, every tear shed in secret, and every prayer that seemed to go unanswered by a silent sky. You might be realizing now that nothing was ever truly lost. It was merely being compounded in the vaults of heaven, waiting for the final guardian to claim the interest. There is a profound sense of cosmic restoration occurring in this very moment, as the stolen harvests of 100 years begin to flow back toward your doorstep. The coincidences of the next few days may be the first ripples of this great returning tide. My heir, do not rush past this feeling of expanding awareness, for it is the sensation of your spirit growing to fit the size of your true destiny. You may have felt small and insignificant in the face of the world's machinery, but in the Twilight Temple, you are seen as a sovereign being of immense value. The paralyzing dread is being replaced by a serenity that feels like a calm ocean at dawn, vast and full of hidden power. There is something about your presence that makes the scavengers retreat, for they cannot stand the light of a soul that has finally remembered its own name. You are not just a survivor of your history. You are the architect of a new era for every soul that shares your blood. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling right now, whether it is a warmth in your chest or a sudden clarity in your mind. This is the integration of the message, the way your physical self acknowledges the truth that your spirit has already embraced. If this resonated, you might find it helpful to sit in silence for a few minutes after we finish, allowing the light inscriptions of the scroll to settle into your consciousness. The eternal window is still open, and the commander of the stars remains on watch, ensuring that your path is clear as you step out of the temple and back into the world. You are walking now with the authority of the Diamond Seal, and the harvest that is rightfully yours is already beginning to find its way home. You may not even know why you stopped here, as if your soul recognized a frequency before your mind could even process the words. Something is shifting quietly in the background of your life, a subtle realignment that you might have felt as a strange restlessness in your spirit during the late hours of the night. Part of you already understands this, recognizing that the old ways of standing still or merely surviving are no longer enough for the journey that has been prepared for you. Just give this a little space and let the silence of this moment speak to the parts of you that have been waiting for permission to finally wake up to their true purpose. You may have felt this before, that heavy, expectant silence that precedes a great storm, or the sudden realization that you are standing on the edge of something much larger than yourself. You may be noticing this now in the way your intuition has become sharper, pointing you toward truths you used to ignore in the busyness of the world. There is something about this silence that feels like a question, an invitation to look deeper into the shadows where your family's stolen treasures have been hidden for generations. In a moment, this internal discomfort may become clearer as we move from the noisy outer courts of life into the still inner chamber of the temple where your records are kept. Not everything is clear yet, but the friction you feel is actually the sound of a very old door beginning to turn on its hinges. My beloved, as we enter this deeper space, the light from the burning seal begins to illuminate the ancient walls, revealing the names and stories of those who carried your light long before you were born. You have likely been feeling the weight of their unfulfilled dreams and their heavy, silent sorrows, a discomfort that stems from the spiritual scavengers who have long hovered over your family's divine legacy. These scavengers thrive in the shadows of ignorance, hoping you will never look closely enough to see what has been systematically diverted from your rightful harvest. You are not here randomly. You have been brought to this inner chamber because the identity of the final guardian is finally being activated within your spirit. You are the one they feared would eventually come to claim what was lost. Something is shifting in the way you perceive your own struggles, as if a veil is being pulled back from a long-standing mystery regarding your worth and your direction. You may be noticing now that the obstacles you faced were not random acts of bad luck, but targeted attempts to keep you from reaching the archive of your sovereign wealth. There is a timing to this awareness that connects to something deeper, a cosmic schedule that the celestial commander of the stars has been meticulously tracking since your very first breath. You might have felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to change your life's direction, or a deep dissatisfaction with the normal path others take, and this connects directly to a specific inheritance that was diamond-sealed for this exact hour. In a moment, the significance of your recent trials will become apparent as the seal begins to glow with recognition of your presence. You may recall a recent moment, perhaps during a mundane task like watching the rain or waiting in a quiet line, when a sudden wave of sadness or longing washed over you for no apparent reason. This was not merely your own passing emotion, but the echo of your bloodline sensing that the eternal window for restoration is beginning to close. If something within you resonates with this experience of feeling out of time or called elsewhere, you may already understand why you're here and why the long silence of the past is finally being broken. Stay with this moment for a second, for there is something deeper here than a mere explanation. It is a spiritual homecoming that has been centuries in the making. You are not just watching. You are participating in a divine legal proceeding where your name is the lead entry. In this still inner chamber, the light inscriptions on the walls begin to pulse with a radiant rhythm that matches the steady beat of your own heart. The diamond-sealed scroll sits upon an altar of starlight, its surface shimmering with the names of properties, ideas, and gifts that were meant for you but were diverted by those who scavenged your peace and your family's prosperity. You may have noticed that your previous efforts to build wealth or lasting joy often felt like pouring water into a cracked vessel, leaving you parched no matter how hard you worked. This discomfort is the primary indicator that the harvest was being siphoned by unseen hands, but the commander of the stars has now stepped into the gap to halt the theft. There is a micro-tension in the air as the authority of the final guardian is being weighed against the claims of the past. The majestic serenity you seek is not found in more effort or in fighting harder, but in the simple, profound recognition of who you are in the eyes of the heavens. You may be noticing a shift in your perspective even as we speak, where the paralyzing dread of never having enough is being replaced by the clarity of everything has been preserved. There is something about this realization that settles the nerves and clears the vision, allowing you to see the scavengers for what they truly are, mere shadows that must vanish when the light of your inheritance is finally turned on. You have been searching the world for a key to your happiness, but the burning seal is showing you that you carry the resonance of the key within your own DNA. Not everything has shifted in the physical world yet, but the spiritual decree has already been signed. Think of the times you felt like you were being watched or guided, even in your darkest hours of searching for a way out of your struggles. You may have noticed a sudden bit of unexpected luck or a timely word from a stranger that kept you from falling into total despair at exactly the right moment. These were the subtle, celestial interventions of the commander, protecting the final guardian until the eternal window was ready to be fully utilized. In a moment, this may connect to a specific decision you are facing in your life right now, one that requires the majestic serenity of someone who knows their heavenly vaults are already full. This is why the timing of this message is so critical. The window is open, but it requires your conscious awareness to walk through it. My chosen, the path ahead of you is no longer a maze of confusion, but a clear corridor of light leading toward the fulfillment of ancestral promises. You are the one heaven trusts with the diamond-sealed scroll, not because you have a perfect record, but because you have a heart that never stopped looking for the light. If you feel supported here and find that these words are settling into the cracks of your weary soul, you're always welcome to stay connected to this archive of peace. Let this awareness expand within you like a rising sun, for the sovereign wealth you are reclaiming is enough to bless not only your life, but the lives of generations yet unborn. Your identity is being rewritten from that of a wanderer to that of a sovereign heir. As we prepare to pause in this still inner chamber, notice the way your breath has become deeper and your heart more steady than it was when you first arrived. The clarity you have gained here is the first taste of the majesty that is coming to define your daily existence from this day forward. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling, letting the warmth of the light inscriptions soak into your spirit like a healing balm for old wounds. The celestial commander of the stars remains with you, and the window of restoration is wide open, waiting for your next step of faith and your total surrender to the good that is coming. If this resonated, Take a moment to notice what you're feeling and simply be still in the presence of your own becoming. For the scroll is now open and the first page belongs to you. There's a reason you're seeing this right now, as if a magnetic pull guided your hand to this exact frequency amidst the noise of 1,000 other voices. There is a timing to this you may not have noticed, a celestial alignment that occurs only once in a great cycle of years, centering its focus entirely upon your presence. You may have sensed this before, a feeling that you were being prepared for a moment of profound recognition, even when the world around you seemed cold and indifferent to your deeper search. Don't rush past this just yet, for the air in this space carries a weight that is meant only for your spirit to carry and transform into the light of 1,000 suns. My child, I welcome you to this unseen place of reflection, a quiet space between worlds where the constant noise of your earthly struggles cannot reach your ears. You have been carrying a heaviness in your spirit for quite some time, a dread that feels like walking through deep water where the current is always working against your every step. You might be noticing now that the exhaustion you feel isn't just physical or mental, but a spiritual weight that has been passed down through the branches of your family tree like a shadow. There is something about this heaviness that is starting to shift in this very hour, as if the ground beneath your feet is finally becoming solid after years of treading upon shifting sand. In a moment, the origin of this pressure may become clearer as we look together at the light inscriptions etched upon the walls of your own soul. You may have felt this before, the agonizing sensation of being so close to a great joy or a long-awaited success, only to have it snatched away at the very last second by circumstances beyond your control. This is the subtle work of the spiritual scavengers, entities of doubt and lack that have lived off the diverted blessings of your ancestors for far too long. They have tried to convince you that struggle is your only true inheritance, and that peace is a luxury you simply cannot afford to believe in. You may be noticing now that these voices of scarcity are growing louder and more frantic because they realize their time in your story is nearly at an end. There is a micro-tension in your life right now, a feeling of being squeezed from all sides. But it is the holy pressure that precedes the breaking of a long-held seal. Look around this unseen place of reflection and see the light inscriptions that are beginning to glow with the vibrant colors of your specific name. These are not merely stories or myths. They are the living blueprints of the sovereign wealth that was meant to be yours from the very beginning of your journey. You are not here randomly, for you have been identified by the celestial commander of the stars as the one who will finally claim what was stolen from those who came before you. There is something about these inscriptions that feels hauntingly familiar, like the melody of a song you knew as a child but forgot the words to as you grew older and the world became louder. In a moment, the first of these inscriptions will reveal a specific gift that has been held in trust for you, waiting for the final guardian to become aware of its existence. Think of a moment recently, perhaps while you were looking at something beautiful like a sunset or a sleeping child, when you felt a sudden, sharp pang of regret, as if you were somehow unworthy of such simple grace. You may have sensed this before, this strange, lingering guilt that haunts your happiness, a legacy of the paralyzing dread that has gripped your bloodline for generations. This inner struggle is the signature of the scavenger, trying to keep you from recognizing the diamond-sealed scroll that is rightfully sitting in your spiritual hands. But you are noticing now that the guilt is starting to dissolve, replaced by a curiosity that is much stronger than the old fears. There is something deeper happening here, a total recalibration of your emotional compass toward the majestic serenity you were always meant to inhabit. My chosen, you have been designated as the final guardian not because you are without flaw, or because you have lived a perfect life, but because you are the one who refused to stop looking up at the stars. Even when the scavengers tried to pull your gaze down to the dirt and the disappointment, you remembered the light of the commander, and that remembrance has saved your inheritance from being lost forever. You may be noticing a shift in your identity, moving away from being a victim of circumstance toward being a sovereign heir of a cosmic lineage with ancient roots. There is an open loop in your current situation, a puzzle piece that hasn't fit for years despite your best efforts, but it connects to something deeper that we are uncovering here in this place of reflection. Not everything is clear yet, but the architecture of your restoration is finally coming into sharp focus against the darkness. I must tell you that the eternal window for this specific restoration is drawing toward a close, making this hour more significant than you might realize in your daily walk. This is not said to cause you alarm or to stir up the old anxieties of the world, but to alert your spirit to the profound importance of this timing, for the stars only align in this manner once in 1,000 seasons. You may have felt a sense of urgency lately, a feeling that you must make a choice or take a step, even if you aren't entirely sure where the path leads next. This micro-tension is the universe gently nudging you to step through the open gate before the cycle resets and the archive is hidden once more. Stay with this awareness for a moment, for the decision to stay or walk away is the final key that either unlocks or relocks the hidden archive of your family's wealth. As you lean into the majestic serenity that is being offered, the voices of the scavengers will become nothing more than a faint hum in the far distance, powerless to reach you. You are realizing that the harvest they stole through doubt and delay is being returned to you with cosmic interest, filling the gaps in your life that you thought would be empty forever. You may be noticing a new stillness in your heart, a peace that doesn't depend on the numbers in your bank account or the fickle opinions of those who never understood your journey. There is something about this serenity that feels ancient and indestructible, a gift from the commander of the stars to the one who stood firm at the midnight threshold while others slept. This is the release you have been seeking, the moment where the awareness of your true status finally outweighs the heavy memory of your trials. My heir, the sovereign wealth you are stepping into is not just for your own comfort, but for the healing of the entire line of those who come after you. You are noticing that the light inscriptions are no longer just on the walls of this unseen place, but are beginning to glow within your own skin, marking you as the one who finally broke the cycle of lack. If something within you resonates, you may already understand why you're here, and why the atmosphere around you feels so suddenly light and full of promise. Let the heaviness fall away now, like a cloak that you have outgrown, and step into the light of the morning that is rising within your own soul. The diamond-sealed scroll is now yours to steward, and its contents will unfold in your life with a grace and a speed that will surprise even you. You may have noticed that certain relationships or habits are no longer fitting who you are becoming, as if the vibration of your soul is rising above the level where those things exist. This is part of the awareness trigger, the realization that the final guardian cannot dwell in the same caves where the scavengers once hid. There is something about this transformation that may feel lonely at times, but in a moment, you will see that you are being surrounded by a different kind of company, celestial and enduring. Stay with this moment and notice how the paralyzing dread has transformed into a quiet, majestic power that flows through your veins like liquid light. You are noticing now that you are not just surviving a storm, but you have become the one who commands the calm that follows it. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling as the silence of this place becomes a part of your own being, anchoring you to the truth of your inheritance. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling, and allow yourself to simply exist in this space of majestic serenity for as long as you need to feel fully integrated. The celestial commander of the stars has seen your heart and has confirmed your identity as the final guardian of the bloodline's light and prosperity. The window is open, the gate is wide, and the inheritance is ready to be poured out into your hands, your heart, and your home. If you feel supported here, you are always welcome to stay connected, for your story is no longer one of struggle, but of a glorious, permanent, and divine restoration. Something about this moment brought you here, as if a silent bell tolled in the depths of your spirit to signal a gathering of the light. There's a timing to this you may not have noticed, an intersection of celestial orbits that has placed you exactly where you need to be to witness a cosmic shift. There's something familiar. The long winter of your soul is finally, a resonance that echoes in the quiet spaces of your heart, telling you that the long winter of your soul is finally beginning to thaw. Let this unfold for a second and allow the weight of the outside world to dissolve, for we are standing at the threshold of a revelation that has been waiting for centuries to reach your ears. You are noticing now that the distractions of the day are fading, leaving only the steady rhythm of your own breath as you prepare to receive what has been kept in secret for your arrival. You may have felt this before, that strange sense of being a stranger in your own life, as if you were wearing a garment that didn't quite fit or speaking a language that wasn't your own. You may be noticing this now in the way you look at your family's history, seeing the patterns of struggle and the sudden, unexplained losses that have plagued those who came before you. There is something about this recognition that feels heavy, a paralyzing dread that has sat like a stone in the center of your chest whenever you thought too deeply about your future. In a moment, the reason for this weight may become clearer as we look together at the invisible forces that have sought to keep you in the shadows of your own potential. Not everything is clear yet, but the friction you feel is the sound of the chains of the past finally being tested by a new strength. My heir, I invite you to walk with me deeper into the twilight temple of eternal records, where the walls are composed of living starlight, and the floor is as smooth as a frozen sea. In this sacred setting, the air is filled with the vibration of every promise ever made to your bloodline, each one a note in a grand symphony that has been waiting for its conductor. You are not here randomly, for you have been identified by the celestial commander of the stars as the one who possesses the exact spiritual frequency to stand in this hall. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, at a time when you felt most disconnected, to remind you that you are the final guardian of a flame that was never meant to be extinguished. You carry the hope of your ancestors within your very DNA, and the temple recognizes you as the rightful steward of its most precious archives. You may have noticed how often your most sincere efforts seem to evaporate into nothingness, as if there were a leak in the vessel of your life that you could never find or repair. These are the marks of the spiritual scavengers, entities of lack and interference that have lived on the periphery of your family's abundance for generations. They thrive on the harvest they did not plant, diverting the flow of sovereign wealth away from your hands and into the voids of doubt and distraction. You might be noticing now that your previous failures were often orchestrated by these scavengers, who feared the day you would finally realize the magnitude of your own inheritance. There is an open loop in your story, a cycle of theft that is being closed in this very hour by the authority of the commander. If something within you resonates with this truth, you may already understand why you're here and why the paralyzing dread is starting to transform into a majestic serenity. Stay with this moment for a second, for there is something deeper here than a mere explanation. It is a spiritual recalibration that is happening in the silence between my words. You may have spent a lifetime feeling like the black sheep or the one who had to carry everyone else's burdens, but this identity was actually your training for the role of the final guardian. The sovereign wealth you are about to encounter is not a reward for your perfection, but a restoration of the balance that was tilted away from your bloodline centuries ago. There is a micro-tension in the atmosphere as the diamond-sealed scroll is brought forth from the depths of the eternal records. Look at the scroll as it rests before you, its surface etched with a luminescence that no earthly light could produce, held shut by a seal of pure, unbreakable diamond. This symbol represents the sovereign wealth of your entire lineage, the creative ideas, the physical vitality, the material abundance, and the spiritual peace that was stored away for the one who could survive the scavengers. You may have felt a sense of not belonging to the world's systems of lack, and this is because you were always meant to operate from the archive of your own divine inheritance. There is something about the sight of this scroll that stirs a memory of a home you've never visited but have always missed in the quietest hours of the night. In a moment, the process of opening this seal will reveal a specific direction for your life that has been hidden until this precise second. Think of a time when you were at your lowest point, perhaps sitting in the dark and wondering if anyone in the vast universe actually knew your name or understood your pain. You may have sensed this before, a tiny spark of hope that refused to go out even when the wind of your circumstances was at its most fierce. This spark was the commander's signal within you, the beacon that allowed the Twilight Temple to track your progress through the labyrinth of the world. You are noticing now that the accidents and coincidences that brought you through those dark times were actually the hands of the celestial host guarding the final guardian. There is something about this realization that brings a majestic serenity, a peace that doesn't need to shout to be heard over the clamor of your old fears. My chosen, you are not just receiving a message. You are participating in a divine legal restoration that is being witnessed by the commander of the stars himself. You have likely noticed that the eternal window for this specific realignment is drawing toward its final moments, creating a sense of now or never in your spirit. This is not the pressure of the world, but the beautiful urgency of a harvest that is fully ripe and ready to be gathered before the seasons shift. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency, for the journey into your sovereign wealth will unfold in layers of increasing glory. Just give this space a little more time to settle into your consciousness as the diamond seal begins to react to the warmth of your own hand. The majestic serenity you are feeling is the natural state of a soul that has finally stopped fighting for what was already its own and has started to simply receive it. You may be noticing a new clarity in your thoughts, as if the fog of the scavenger's lies is being burned away by the rising sun of your true identity. There is something about this serenity that makes the old dread look like a distant, fading dream, a shadow that no longer has any power to touch the reality of your present. You are the final guardian, and the power you wield is not based on your own strength, but on the sovereign decree of the heavens that has declared your restoration to be complete. Not everything has changed in the physical realm yet, but the spiritual momentum is now irreversible and gathering speed with every breath you take. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling as the light of the diamond-sealed scroll begins to fill the room of your heart, pushing out the last remnants of the old scarcity. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling, and allow the serenity to anchor itself in your spirit as your new foundation. The celestial commander of the stars is closing the books on your past struggles and opening the ledger of your future abundance, a record that will never be touched by scavengers again. You have survived the dread, you have stood at the threshold, and now you are stepping into the majestic peace of your true ancestral home. If you feel a sense of homecoming here, stay in this space of reflection for as long as you need, for the temple is yours, the records are yours, and the morning has finally come. Out of everything you could have encountered today, you paused here, as if a silent signal reached out from the unseen to gently touch your awareness. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, for there is a celestial timing unfolding beneath the surface of your daily routine, shifting the very foundations of what you thought was possible. You may have been feeling a weight lately, a shadow of dread that you couldn't quite name, yet part of you already understands this sensation as the precursor to a great awakening. Let this unfold for a second, and allow the noise of the world to dissolve into the background. For we are standing at the threshold of a revelation that has been waiting for centuries to reach your ears. You may have felt this before, that persistent sense of being watched over by eyes that are both ancient and kind, even when you felt most abandoned by the world. You might be noticing now that the chaotic events of your life are beginning to form a pattern, one that suggests you are being moved into a position of unexpected authority. There's something about this realization that brings a sharp intake of breath, a recognition that the bad luck you've endured was actually a sophisticated diversion created by those who fear your rising. In a moment, this may become clearer as we explore the nature of the treasure that has been held in trust for you. Not everything is clear yet, but the heaviness you've carried is finally being identified for what it truly is, the unrefined weight of a crown you are meant to wear. My chosen, I invite you to linger with me in this still inner chamber of the Twilight Temple, where the walls pulse with the heartbeat of your ancestors. You have been moving through your days as if you were half asleep, carrying a paralyzing dread that suggested your best years were behind you, or that your family's story ended in sorrow. This setting is designed to strip away those illusions, revealing the eternal records where your name is written in the ink of stars. You are not here randomly. You have been brought to this hall because the celestial commander of the stars has declared that the season of scavenging is over. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, perhaps to anchor you before the final window of this cosmic cycle draws to a close. You may have noticed a strange phenomenon in your life, where opportunities seem to wither just as you reach for them, leaving you with a sense of profound spiritual exhaustion. This is the handiwork of the spiritual scavengers, the unseen entities that have attempted to live off the diverted light of your bloodline for generations. They have sought to steal your harvest by sowing seeds of doubt and dread, hoping you would remain too paralyzed to claim the diamond-sealed scroll that sits upon the altar of your destiny. You might be noticing now that their influence is weakening as you turn your attention toward the truth of your sovereign wealth. There is an open loop in your history, a debt of joy and prosperity that has gone unpaid, but the record is now being set right. If something within you resonates with this feeling of being owed by the universe, you may already understand why you're here and why the air feels so thick with anticipation. Stay with this moment, for there is something deeper here than a simple, comforting thought. It is a realignment of your soul with its original purpose. You may have felt like the final guardian of a crumbling ruin, but the Twilight Temple is showing you that the ruin was merely a facade to protect the gold beneath. The sovereign wealth you carry is not subject to the whims of the world's economy, for it was diamond-sealed by divine decree to ensure its preservation for this specific hour. There is a micro-tension in your spirit as the seal begins to vibrate, sensing the proximity of its rightful owner. I see the moments where you have felt most invisible, perhaps standing in a crowd and feeling as though your very existence was a ghost story no one wanted to hear. You may have sensed this before, a deep identity crisis that made you wonder if the great promises of your youth were nothing more than a cruel joke. This inner struggle is the final defense of the scavengers, a desperate attempt to keep the final guardian from recognizing the diamond-sealed scroll. But you are noticing now that the dread is losing its grip, replaced by a majestic serenity that feels as solid as the stone of this temple. There is something about the way the light reflects off the diamond seal that reminds you of a light you once saw in a dream, a light that meant you were finally home. My heir, you are not merely a participant in a story. You are the one who has been empowered to rewrite the ending for an entire bloodline. You have likely noticed that the eternal window for this specific restoration is beginning to narrow, creating a sacred pressure to step into your role with full awareness. This is not a cause for fear, but a call to majestic serenity, the kind of peace that can only be found when you realize that the battle for your inheritance has already been won in the higher realms. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency of truth. For the transition from scavenger prey to sovereign ruler is a journey that requires constant nourishment. Just give this space a little more time to settle into your spirit, as the inscriptions on the scroll begin to glow with your personal frequency. The majestic serenity that is settling over you now is evidence that the cosmic restoration is already in motion. You may be noticing that the voices of lack and not enough are being drowned out by the silent roar of your ancestral inheritance. There is something about this peace that feels unbreakable, a gift from the commander of the stars to the one who stayed at the post when the night was at its darkest. You have survived the dread of the scavengers, and now you are standing as the final guardian of a wealth that is both ancient and ever new. Not everything has shifted in your physical reality yet, but the spiritual decree has been issued, and the manifestation is as certain as the rising of the sun. Think of a small, real-life moment when you felt a sudden, inexplicable sense of protection, perhaps a near miss on the road or a timely financial gift that arrived just when the walls were closing in. You may have felt this before, but you dismissed it as luck, unaware that the celestial commander was actively shielding the final guardian until this moment of activation. You might be noticing now that those moments were actually rehearsals for the sovereign wealth that is about to become your daily reality. There is something about this connection to the divine that makes you feel both incredibly small and immeasurably vast at the same time. This is the signature of the bloodline. You carry a lineage of survivors who are now becoming a lineage of sovereigns. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling as the majestic serenity of the Twilight Temple begins to fill every cell of your being. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling and allow the old memories of dread to be washed away by the light of the sovereign scroll. The window is open, the commander is watching, and the diamond-sealed record is finally in your hands, ready to be read and lived. You have been recognized as the one who will carry the wealth of the past into the glory of the future, and heaven itself is celebrating your arrival. Stay with this peace for as long as you can, for you are no longer a guardian of shadows, but the steward of a light that will never fade. There's a reason you're seeing this right now, as if the universe itself hushed its many voices to allow this specific frequency to find your ear. Something is shifting quietly in the invisible spaces of your life, a realignment of ancient stars that has finally placed you at the center of a celestial map. You may have sensed this before, a feeling of being on the verge of a discovery that would change the very definition of who you are and where you belong. Don't rush past this just yet, for the air in this moment is charged with a sacred intent that is beginning to pulse in harmony with your own heart. My child, I welcome you to the quiet midnight threshold of the Twilight Temple, a place where time stands still, and the records of your spirit are etched in walls of living starlight. You may have spent years searching for a sense of purpose, feeling like a traveler lost in a thick fog with no compass to guide you. You might be noticing now that the exhaustion you feel isn't just from your daily labors, but from the spiritual weight of seeking a home you couldn't quite remember. There is something about this threshold that feels like a long-awaited answer to a question you've been afraid to ask. In a moment, the nature of your search may become clearer as we look together at the heritage you were born to protect. You may have felt this before, that sudden, cold realization that your hard-earned progress was being eroded by forces you couldn't see or name. These are the spiritual scavengers, the entities of lack and interference. They thrive on your searching, hoping that you will remain a wanderer forever so they can continue to feast on the sovereign wealth you've left unclaimed. You may be noticing now that their whispers of doubt and dread are losing their power over you as you stand here at the midnight threshold. There is a micro-tension in the atmosphere, a feeling of an old cycle coming to an end, as the identity of the final guardian is activated within your soul. Look into the shadows of the temple and see the burning seal that protects the archive of your family's light and abundance. This seal was forged in the fire of ancestral prayers and diamond-sealed to ensure that no scavenger could ever break its surface or steal its contents. You may have noticed how often you felt a strange resistance whenever you moved toward your greatest dreams, a friction that was actually the seal protecting your wealth until you were ready. There is something about the glow of this seal that is beginning to resonate with the light in your own eyes, recognizing the one who has finally returned to claim the keys. In a moment, this recognition will deepen into a profound awareness of what it truly means to be the final guardian of your lineage. Think of a real-life moment recently, perhaps while you were folding laundry or driving in silence, when you felt a sudden, sharp clarity about a mistake from your past. You may have sensed this before, but this time it didn't come with the usual shame. It came with a sense of, that is no longer me. This is the awareness trigger of the final guardian, the realization that you are becoming someone the scavengers no longer recognize or understand. You are moving from a state of searching for your value to a state of recognizing that your value has been stored in the eternal records all along. There is an open loop in your current life, a situation that seems to lead nowhere, but it is actually the final doorway into your sovereign wealth. Not everything is clear yet, but the fog is being burned away by the radiance of the burning seal. If something within you resonates with this shift in perspective, you may already understand why you're here and why the paralyzing dread of the past is starting to dissolve. Stay with this moment for a second, for there is something deeper here than a simple shift in mood. It is a fundamental reconstruction of your spiritual DNA. You may have felt like a victim of a generational curse, but the Commander of the Stars is showing you that you are actually the champion of a generational blessing. The sovereign wealth you are reclaiming is not just for your own bank account, but for the restoration of peace and power to every soul that shares your blood. There is a majesty in this serenity that the world cannot offer and the scavengers cannot touch. My chosen, you are not here randomly. You have been summoned to this place of eternal records because the window for this specific restoration is drawing toward its conclusion. You may have noticed a sense of now in your spirit, a feeling that the choices you make in these coming days will echo for decades to come. This is the celestial window of opportunity, a rare alignment where the archive of your sovereign wealth is made fully accessible to the natural realm. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency. For the process of becoming the heir requires a steady immersion in the truth of your high calling. Just give this space a little more time to settle into your bones as the burning seal begins to respond to your presence. The majestic serenity you are beginning to feel is the atmosphere of your true home, the place where you were known before the world ever had a chance to label you. You may be noticing that the old anxieties about making it or proving yourself are being replaced by a quiet confidence that everything has already been provided. There is something about this serenity that acts as a shield against the spiritual scavengers, for they can only operate in the frequency of fear and lack. You are the final guardian, and the power you hold is rooted in the eternal records that no earthly power can alter or erase. Not everything has manifested in your physical sight yet, but the spiritual momentum of your restoration is now too great to be stopped. Notice the way your heart feels lighter as we stand together at this midnight threshold, as if years of unnecessary burdens have been lifted from your back. You are recognizing that you are not the sum of your struggles, but the culmination of 1,000 prayers for a savior to arise in your family. The searching is over, and the becoming has begun a process of stepping into the skin of the person you were always meant to be. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling, and allow the majestic serenity to anchor itself as your permanent state of being. The celestial commander of the stars has seen your endurance and has confirmed that the diamond-sealed scroll is now yours to open and to live. As we prepare to leave this place of reflection, remember that the burning seal is now a part of your own spirit, a light that will guide you through the remaining shadows of the world. You are walking now as the final guardian of a bloodline that has been redeemed, restored, and enriched by the sovereign wealth of heaven. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling, letting the peace of the Twilight Temple follow you back into the rhythm of your daily life. The window is open, the records are clear, and your inheritance is waiting for you to simply step forward and receive it with open hands. If you feel a sense of homecoming here, stay in this space of peace, for you are finally becoming the one you were always born to be. Something is shifting quietly within the layers of your current reality, a movement so subtle it often goes unnoticed by the busy mind. There's a timing to this you may not have noticed, a rhythmic pulse from the heavens that has finally aligned with the frequency of your own soul. You may have sensed this before, a lingering feeling that the events of your life were leading toward a significant threshold of truth. Don't rush past this just yet, for there is a message intended only for the one who dares to remain still in the presence of the unknown. You are noticing now that the chaotic noise of your surroundings is beginning to dim, as if the universe has drawn a circle of silence around you to protect this encounter. You may have felt this before, a profound heaviness that seemed to cling to your skin like a shadow you couldn't outrun. This sensation often arrived in the moments of your greatest hope, a paralyzing dread that whispered your efforts would eventually lead back to the same empty fields. You may be noticing this now as a pattern in your family's history, where breakthroughs were frequently followed by sudden, inexplicable setbacks that drained the collective spirit. There is something about this heaviness that is starting to change, a shifting of weight as the celestial scales begin to move in your favor. In a moment, the source of this ancient burden will be revealed, and you will see how it has been held in place by forces that never wanted you to find the corridor of your inheritance. My child, I invite you to walk with me through the silent corridor of the Twilight Temple, a place where the air itself is composed of memory and starlight. This setting is where the records of your bloodline are preserved, far away from the prying eyes and grasping hands of those who do not belong here. You are not here randomly, for the celestial commander of the stars has signaled that the time of your hiding is over, and the time of your revealing has begun. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, specifically to ground your heart before the light inscriptions on these walls begin to speak your true name. You have been the final guardian of your family's light, often without even knowing it, holding a torch in the darkness while others allowed their flames to flicker and die. You may have noticed how certain opportunities in your life seem to be snatched away by the wind just as you reached for them, leaving you with a bitter taste of almost. These are the traces of the spiritual scavengers, the unseen entities that have attempted to intercept the harvest meant for your lineage. They have thrived on the heaviness of your dread, using your own fear as a doorway to siphon the sovereign wealth that was intended to bless your path. You might be noticing now that your previous losses were not failures of your character, but thefts of your divine property that the heavens have meticulously recorded. There is an open loop in your journey, a series of diverted blessings that are now being tracked by the commander for a total and cosmic restoration. If something within you resonates with this feeling of being spiritually exhausted yet strangely expectant, you may already understand why you're here. Stay with this moment for a second, for there is something deeper here than a simple reassurance. It is a spiritual restitution that is already unfolding in the atmosphere around you. You may have felt like a servant in your own life, working the land for others while your own stores remained empty and dry. But the identity of the final guardian is one of sovereign authority, and as you recognize this, the power of the scavengers over your life begins to wither like leaves in a frost. There is a micro-tension in the air as the light inscriptions on the walls of the corridor begin to glow with a frequency that matches your own heartbeat. I see the real-life moments where the heaviness was almost too much to bear. Perhaps sitting at your kitchen table at night, looking at a stack of obligations and feeling a deep, hollow dread about the years ahead. You may have sensed this before, a feeling of being trapped in a cycle that was far older than you, a script you didn't write but were forced to perform. This inner struggle was the signature of the scavenger, trying to keep the final guardian from looking up and seeing the light inscription that bears your true name and status. But you are noticing now that the dread is being replaced by an awareness that is much more powerful, an awareness that you are the one chosen to end the cycle of lack forever. There is something about this recognition that brings a majestic serenity, a peace that knows the debt has already been paid in full by the heavens. The light inscription before you is pulsing with a brilliance that demands your full attention, a diamond-sealed record of the sovereign wealth that has been recovered in your name. You have likely noticed that the eternal window for this specific realignment is drawing toward its conclusion, making this moment of awareness more critical than any that have come before. This is the hour when the heaviness of the past is officially traded for the release of the future, a transaction overseen by the Commander of the Stars. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this archive of peace, for the path of the final guardian is one that requires constant alignment with the truth. Just give this space a little more time to permeate your spirit, as the inscriptions begin to transfer their light into your very soul. The majestic serenity you are feeling now is the natural result of knowing that your harvest is no longer being stolen, but is being guarded by celestial hosts. You may be noticing a shift in your physical body, a loosening of the tension in your jaw, and a lightness in your step that you haven't felt in many seasons. There is something about this release that feels like a heavy door finally being unlocked and pushed wide, revealing a landscape of abundance that stretches as far as the eye can see. You are the final guardian, and the wealth you are reclaiming is not just for your comfort, but for the total restoration of the honor and prosperity of your bloodline. Not everything has fully manifested in the material world yet, but the decree of release has been issued from the silent corridor of the eternal temple. Think of a time when you almost gave up, when the dread was so paralyzing that you couldn't see a single step ahead, yet somehow you found the strength to keep breathing. This was the Commander of the Stars intervening on your behalf, preserving the final guardian because your presence is required for this cosmic restoration to be complete. You may have felt this before as a sudden, inexplicable sense of, I must keep going, even when there was no logical reason to believe things would improve. You are noticing now that your endurance was not in vain. It was the price of admission to this silent corridor where your inheritance is finally being revealed. There is a majesty in your serenity today that is born from the fire of your survival, a peace that the scavengers can never comprehend or disturb. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling as the majestic serenity of the Twilight Temple becomes your new home, a fortress of peace that no earthly storm can shake. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling and allow the release of the old heaviness to be total and permanent. The window is open, the commander is present, and the light inscription of your sovereign wealth is now fully activated within your spirit. You have stepped out of the shadows of the scavengers and into the brilliance of your true identity as the heir of a celestial promise. Stay with this peace for as long as you can, for you are finally free to walk in the fullness of the harvest that was always meant for you. Out of everything you could have encountered today, you paused here, as if a silent bridge was built between your world and mine just for this exchange. There's a timing to this you may not have noticed, a rhythmic alignment of the spheres that has finally brought your soul into focus within the heavenly courts for a profound purpose. You may have been feeling something you couldn't explain lately, a restless energy that felt like the distant whisper of a forgotten name calling you home. Let this unfold for a second, and notice how the usual demands of your day seem to pause, giving way to a stillness that is both ancient and new. You are noticing now that the distractions of the world are receding, leaving you with a clarity that has been missing for far too long. You may have felt this before, the sensation of walking through a heavy fog where every direction looked the same and every effort felt like moving against a wall of invisible glass. You may be noticing this now in the way you approach your daily life, perhaps with a sense of caution that was born from years of unexplained setbacks and silent disappointments. There is something about this fog that is beginning to clear in this very hour, revealing the outlines of a structure you never knew existed but have always belonged to. In a moment, this may become clearer as we approach the hidden archive where the blueprints of your life have been kept under celestial lock for your protection. Not everything is clear yet, but the heaviness you felt is actually the gravity of the profound secret you are about to uncover about your true identity. My chosen, I invite you to enter this hidden archive with me, a place where the shelves are not made of wood but of frozen starlight, holding the stories of your ancestors' unfulfilled potential. In this silent sanctuary, the celestial commander of the stars keeps watch over a glowing book that bears the unique signature of your specific bloodline. You are not here randomly, for you have been selected as the final guardian, the one whose spirit is strong enough to read the pages that others in your lineage were too afraid to open. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, perhaps to provide you with the anchor you need before the eternal window of this specific season finally begins to close. You are standing in a place where time is measured by the fulfillment of promises, and your name is the next entry on the list of restoration. You might have noticed how often your most inspired ideas seem to be met with a sudden, draining doubt that felt like it came from outside of yourself, chilling your enthusiasm before it could take root. These are the footprints of the spiritual scavengers, entities that have lived on the fringes of your family's greatness, hoping to keep the final guardian in a state of perpetual amnesia. They thrive on the silence of the archive, fearing the day when you would finally claim the sovereign wealth that they have attempted to divert into the shadows of lack for generations. You may be noticing now that your previous dry seasons were often the result of this unseen interference, a systematic siphoning of the joy and abundance that was always meant to be your harvest. There is an open loop in your family's history, a record of prosperity that was signed by the heavens but never delivered to the earth, and the commander is here to see that the transaction is finally completed. If something within you resonates with this sense of a lost kingdom, you may already understand why you're here and why the paralyzing dread is starting to lose its grip on your heart. Stay with this moment for a second, for there is something deeper here than just a new perspective. It is a total restoration of your spiritual dignity and your cosmic rank. You may have felt like the least likely candidate for a divine inheritance, perhaps looking at your own flaws and human failures as proof that you were overlooked by the heavens. But the hidden archive shows a different story, one where your struggles were the very fire that forged the diamond seal protecting your wealth from the scavengers. There is a micro-tension in the air as the glowing book responds to your vibration, its pages turning automatically toward the chapter that was written specifically for you before the foundations of the world were laid. Think of a real-life moment when you felt a sudden, inexplicable sense of grief while looking at a success achieved by someone else. A feeling of that should have been mine that you quickly tried to suppress out of guilt. You may have sensed this before, but you dismissed it as jealousy, unaware that it was actually your spirit recognizing the stolen harvest of your own bloodline passing you by. This inner struggle was the scavenger trying to hide the truth by making you feel small and envious, but you are noticing now that the grief is transforming into a majestic serenity as you realize your own storehouse is full. There is something about the way you are standing today that suggests the final guardian has finally accepted the weight of the crown and the responsibility of the archive. You are not just a spectator in this space. You are the one for whom these shelves were built, and for whom the commander has stood his long watch. The glowing book in front of you is now open to a page that shimmers with the light of 1,000 fulfilled promises, each one reflecting a sovereign wealth that was diamond-sealed for your arrival. You have likely noticed that the eternal window for this specific realignment is drawing toward its conclusion, creating a sacred pressure to act while the portal between the archive and your world is still wide. This is not the anxiety of the world, but the majestic serenity of a soul that knows its time has finally come and its path is being made clear. If you feel supported here and find that these words are settling into your heart with a familiar weight, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency of truth and restoration. Just give this space a little more time to integrate into your awareness, as the Celestial Commander prepares to hand you the keys to the vaults of your ancestors. The majestic serenity you are feeling is evidence of your transition from a seeker of scraps to a possessor of the kingdom's truth. You may be noticing that the voices of the scavengers, which used to shout so loudly in your mind, are being replaced by the steady, supportive hum of the celestial hosts who have been waiting for this moment. There is something about this peace that feels unbreakable, a divine immunity to the paralyzing dread that once kept you awake in the middle of the night, wondering how you would survive. You are the final guardian, and the wealth you are reclaiming is not just for your own security, but for the total healing of the generational line that produced you and the one that will follow. Not everything has shifted in the physical world yet, but the spiritual momentum of your restoration is now an unstoppable force, moving with the precision of the stars themselves toward its manifestation. Recall a time when you felt completely lost, perhaps in a city you knew well or even within the walls of your own home. A moment of profound disconnection that made you feel like you were floating in space without an anchor. You may have felt this before, but you are noticing now that the anchor has been found here in the hidden archive, in the record of your sovereign identity and ancestral light. This recognition is the final key that locks out the scavengers and locks in the majesty of your serene future, ensuring that your harvest can never be stolen again. There is a micro-tension in your spirit as you realize that the life you've lived up until this point was merely the prologue to the epic that is now beginning to unfold. You are the one who will carry the diamond-sealed light into the darkest corners of your family's future, ensuring that the shadows of lack never return to haunt your heirs. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling as the light from the glowing book becomes a permanent part of your own aura, a signature of the sovereign wealth you are now stewarding. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling and allow the old memories of lack and dread to be replaced by the reality of your cosmic inheritance. The window is open, the commander is watching, and the hidden archive is no longer hidden from your sight or your reach. You have arrived at the threshold of your true life, and the majesty of your serenity is the proof that you are ready to walk through it with authority and grace. Stay with this peace for a moment longer, for the restoration of your bloodline is now complete in the spirit, and the harvest is finally coming home to the one who was brave enough to claim it. There's a reason you're seeing this right now, as if the very air has stilled to let a specific message find its way to your heart. This moment may not be as ordinary as it seems, for the ticking of the clock has taken on a cosmic weight that only your spirit can truly hear and understand. You may have sensed this before, a quiet knowing that you were standing at the edge of a great transition, even as the world around you continued its frantic and noisy pace. Let this unfold for a second, and notice how the static of your daily worries begins to soften, revealing a clarity that has been buried beneath layers of searching. You are noticing now that the path that brought you here wasn't a series of accidents, but a deliberate journey toward an open gate that has been waiting for the final guardian to arrive. You might have felt this before, that strange, persistent resistance that met your every attempt to build something lasting or meaningful. This was the presence of the spiritual scavengers, those unseen forces of lack and delay that have haunted your bloodline, waiting to divert the fruit of your labor before it could reach your hands. You may be noticing this now in the quiet exhaustion of your family's history, where years of sincere effort often seem to yield only a fraction of the promised reward. There is something about this resistance that is coming to a head in this very hour, a micro-tension that signals the end of a long and hidden war for your prosperity. In a moment, the significance of this struggle may become clearer, as we look at the open gate where your sovereign wealth has been held in trust for such a time as this. My child, I welcome you to this quiet midnight threshold, a place between the world of shadows you have known and the heritage of light you were born to inhabit. In this sacred space, the celestial commander of the stars stands as your guide and witness, his presence a silent promise that the chaos of the past will not follow you through this opening. You are not here randomly. You have been identified as the final guardian of your lineage, the one whose spirit has the endurance to stand at this gate while others may have turned away in despair. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, specifically to provide you with the majestic serenity required to step across the line into your true identity. You carry the codes of a cosmic restoration within your very marrow, and the gate is beginning to vibrate in recognition of your specific frequency. Look through the opening and see the radiance of the sovereign wealth that was diamond-sealed for your ancestors, but is only now being fully unlocked for you. You may have noticed how often your greatest dreams felt like they were being held behind a veil, always visible but never quite reachable by your own strength alone. This veil is now being parted at the open gate, revealing the harvest that has been compounded over generations of delay, doubt, and difficulty. There is an open loop in your current life, a project, a relationship, or a passion that has felt stuck for years, but it connects directly to this divine opening and the restoration that is flowing from it. Not everything is clear yet, but the friction you feel is the sound of the old locks being turned by a key you didn't even know you possessed. You may have spent years in a state of paralyzing dread, fearing that the patterns of lack and struggle you saw in your parents would eventually become the absolute ceiling of your own existence. This inner struggle was the final defense of the scavengers, a desperate strategy to keep you from approaching the gate by making you feel unworthy of the light that shines through it. But you are noticing now that the dread is being replaced by an awareness that is much deeper and more stable than your old anxieties. There is something about the way the commander of the stars looks at you that makes you realize you were never being punished by the universe. You were being preserved for this exact cosmic window. This realization brings a majestic serenity that settles into your heart like a stone, solid and unshakable in its truth and its power. Think of a time recently, perhaps while you were looking at your own reflection in a mirror or standing in a crowded place, when you felt a sudden, sharp sense of not belonging. You may have sensed this before, a feeling that you were an actor, playing a minor role in a play that was far too small for the person you truly are. This subtle struggle was the final guardian within you, pushing against the limits of a scavenger-infested reality, searching for the gate that would lead to your true home. You are noticing now that the feeling of not belonging was actually a spiritual sign of your high rank, an indicator that you were meant for the sovereign wealth that is now being revealed. There is something about this truth that makes your eyes clearer and your spirit lighter than it has been in many decades. My heir, the eternal window for this specific restoration is beginning to narrow, and this rare opportunity requires your full presence and conscious agreement. This is not the pressure of the earth, but the divine invitation to step into your role before the seasons of the universe shift and the gate is hidden once more. If you feel supported here and find that these words are echoing the deepest whispers of your own soul, you're always welcome to stay connected to this archive of peace. Let this awareness expand within you, for the majestic serenity you are feeling is the vibration of a soul that has finally found its rightful place in the divine order of things. Just give this moment a little more space to settle into your consciousness, as the commander prepares to escort you through the final passage of your long journey. The sovereign wealth you are reclaiming is not just a collection of material things, but a total restoration of the dignity and the power that was always intended for your bloodline. You are noticing that the old fears of running out or losing everything have no place at the quiet midnight threshold, where the supply of the stars is infinite and eternal. There is something about this place that makes you feel both ancient and incredibly young, as if the weight of your previous years has been traded for the vitality of your original purpose. You are the final guardian, and the harvest you are about to step into is the result of every seed of faith you ever planted in the dark. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling. and allow yourself to simply be, for the gate is open, and your restoration is now a living reality. You may be noticing a physical shift in your environment, perhaps a sudden change in the light or a feeling of deep stillness that settled over your room as you listened. This is the awareness trigger, the sign that the Twilight Temple of Eternal Records has successfully merged with your current space to facilitate this transfer of wealth. There is something about this stillness that feels like a shield, protecting the final guardian from the frantic energy of the scavengers who are now forced to watch from a distance. You are not just recovering what you lost. You are inheriting what was stored in the heavens for you before time began. In a moment, this connection will become an unbreakable bond, as the diamond-sealed light of the scroll becomes one with your own internal light. The majestic serenity you have found here is your new standard, the baseline from which you will now operate in every area of your life. You may notice that as you step back into your daily routine, the old dread no longer has the same grip on your heart, for it has been exposed as a hollow lie of the scavengers. There is something about the authority of the final guardian that changes the way the world responds to you, opening doors that were previously locked and clearing paths that were once blocked. You are walking now with the favor of the commander of the stars, and the sovereign wealth of your ancestors is flowing through your hands to heal your future. Stay in this space of reflection for a moment longer, noticing how the serenity has filled every corner of your spirit. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling as the restoration begins to manifest in your thoughts, your emotions, and your very breath. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling and simply acknowledge the majestic peace that has taken root in the center of your being. The gate is open, the window is closing, but you have already stepped through into the brilliance of your true inheritance. You are the final guardian, and your journey into sovereign wealth has moved from a dream into a permanent reality. If you feel supported here, remember that you are always welcome to return to this stillness whenever the world grows too loud. You may not even know why you stopped here, yet there is a vibration in this space that speaks directly to the legacy you carry within your very bones. There's a timing to this you may not have noticed, a final alignment of the stars that is centering entirely upon your arrival at this specific threshold. Part of you already understands this, sensing that the heavy silence of your past is finally being broken by a sound that feels like a long-forgotten home. Let this unfold for a second, and notice how the shadows of the world seem to bow in the presence of the truth that is surfacing within you right now. You are noticing that the noise of the outside world has grown thin, leaving only the profound clarity of this sacred encounter between your spirit and its origin. You may have felt this before, that agonizing sensation of being a spectator in a life that was meant for someone much larger and more powerful than the person you've been allowed to be. You might be noticing now that the paralyzing dread you carried for years, the fear that you would always be just enough but never truly free, was actually a tether held by those who didn't want you to find this temple. There is something about this dread that is finally losing its density, transforming from a solid wall of ice into a clear stream of awareness. In a moment, the reason for your long endurance may become clearer as we stand together before the final archive of your ancestral inheritance. Not everything is clear yet, but the heaviness is lifting because the authority of the final guardian has finally been recognized by the heavens. My child, we stand now at the very heart of the Twilight Temple of Eternal Records, where the walls are composed of the collective light of every soul that shared your blood and kept the faith. In this sanctuary, the celestial commander of the stars has lowered his sword, signaling that the battle for your identity has been won in the higher realms. You are not here randomly. You have been brought to this center point, because your spirit is the only one in your lineage capable of holding the diamond-sealed scroll without breaking. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, at the precise moment when you felt you had nothing left to give, to remind you that your greatest wealth was always stored where the world could not touch it. You are the steward of a sovereign wealth that is now ready to be poured into the physical vessel of your life. You may have noticed how the spiritual scavengers always seemed to strike when you were closest to a moment of peace or a breakthrough of purpose. These entities of lack and diversion have spent generations trying to convince your family that the harvest was meant for everyone else, but never for you. You might be noticing now that their influence is vanishing like smoke in a rising wind, for they have no legal standing in the presence of the commander and the final guardian. There is an open loop in your history, a record of stolen joy and diverted prosperity that is being closed and settled in this very hour. This micro-tension you feel in your spirit is the sound of the cosmic scales finally finding their balance after centuries of being tilted toward the shadows. If something within you resonates with this feeling of a sudden, profound homecoming, you may already understand why you're here. Stay with this moment for a second, for there is something deeper here than just words. It is the activation of the sovereign wealth that was diamond, sealed for your specific DNA. You may have spent a lifetime feeling like the one who had to fix everything for everyone else, carrying a weight that felt both honorable and exhausting. This identity is now being refined into that of the final guardian, the one who no longer just fixes the old, but who inherits and distributes the new. There is something about the glow of the diamond seal that suggests it has been waiting only for the warmth of your palm to release its contents. Think of a real-life moment, perhaps just a few days ago, when you felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to clear out the clutter in your home or to walk away from a conversation that felt beneath your true self. You may have sensed this before, a growing intolerance for anything that is not grounded in truth and light. This is the awareness trigger of the final guardian, the signal that your spirit is preparing for the majesty of the serenity that follows a total restoration. You are noticing now that the paralyzing dread was merely a shadow cast by your own greatness, a greatness that the scavengers tried to hide by making you feel small. But as you stand in the twilight temple, the shadow is gone, and only the light of your ancestral inheritance remains, brilliant and undeniable. My heir, I must tell you that the eternal window for this specific cosmic cycle is drawing toward its final minutes, and your presence here is the key that prevents it from closing before your work is done. This is not the urgency of the world's fear, but the sacred timing of a harvest that has reached its absolute peak of perfection. You may have felt a sense of now or never in your spirit lately, a realization that the path you choose today will define the landscape for generations to come. This is the weight of the sovereign wealth, a responsibility that brings with it a majestic serenity, because you know the commander of the stars is backing your every move. Just give this space a little more time to integrate into your marrow, as the diamond seal finally yields to your touch. The majestic serenity that is settling over you now is the signature of a soul that has finally stopped searching for its value and has begun to inhabit it. You may be noticing that the old habit of looking for approval from the world is being replaced by a deep, quiet satisfaction that comes from the heavens themselves. There is something about this peace that acts as a permanent barrier against the spiritual scavengers, for they can no longer find a foothold in a heart that knows its own sovereign worth. You are the final guardian, and the wealth you are reclaiming, the creativity, the health, the abundance, and the joy is the natural atmosphere of your true identity. Not everything has shifted in the physical world yet, but the spiritual momentum is now so great that the physical must soon align with the decree of the temple. Recall the real-life moments of silence you've had recently, those seconds where time seemed to stop, and you felt a profound connection to something vast and ancient. You may have felt this before, but you dismissed it as a passing thought, unaware that it was the twilight temple of eternal records making contact with your awareness. You are noticing now that those moments were the foundation for the majestic serenity you are walking in today, a peace that was built stone by stone through your endurance and your faith. There is an open loop in your heart, a desire for a specific kind of freedom that you've never been able to name, but it is being filled right now by the light of the diamond-sealed scroll. You are the one who has turned the page on 1,000 years of lack, and the new chapter is written in the gold of your own becoming. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling as the majestic serenity of this encounter becomes the permanent climate of your spirit. If this resonated, take a moment to notice what you're feeling and allow the old records of dread to be completely overwritten by the light of your sovereign inheritance. The window is open, the commander is watching, and the diamond-sealed scroll is now yours to carry back into the world as a beacon of what is possible when a soul finally remembers who it is. You have moved from being the guardian of the shadows to being the steward of the sun, and the harvest that is yours will never be taken again. Stay in this space of reflection for as long as you need to feel fully integrated into your new reality, for you have finally come home to yourself. If you have felt supported in this space and find that these truths have anchored your heart, you are always welcome to stay connected to this frequency as your new life unfolds. The final guardian is no longer a role you play, but the essence of who you have become through the fire of your survival and the grace of this restoration. Take a final moment to breathe in the majestic serenity of the Twilight Temple, letting its ancient peace follow you as you step through the closing window and into the brilliance of your sovereign future. The scavengers are gone, the dread has dissolved, and the serenity of the stars is now yours to keep, forever and always.